my pleasure to introduce our featured presenter today. He got interested in emergency management pretty young. Even while he was in high school, he got involved in search and rescue. That inspired him to get a degree in emergency management, which he did. He's come to Williamson County a couple of years ago. Prior to joining Williamson County, he was a disaster preparedness consultant, and he worked with private companies as well as with the government. When he's not thinking emergency management thoughts, which is pretty much all the time near as I can tell, he does like to be outdoors, work on house projects, or go hiking and backpacking. He is the operations manager here at Williamson County Emergency Management Agency, which is our served agency here at WCARES. So thanks in advance to him for coming, and let's give a warm welcome to Josh Walter. Josh, come on up.
Thank you, Hoop. Do we got good sound?
Yep.
Cool. Excellent. Well, thank you, Hoop. You made me sound way more important than I am, so I appreciate that. So good morning, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to meet with you all. I know around the room I see a lot of familiar faces, hear a lot of familiar voices. Some of you may be familiar with what our agency does. Some of you may not. So some of this information may be introductory for others and very familiar to some of you. So what I kind of want to talk about is what our agency does and how we can work with you all, how we can leverage your resources both during preparedness activities, but then also during a response. So for anybody who doesn't know, what is emergency management? My definition is the strategic coordination of emergency services before, during, and after disaster. We're not the firefighters who go in and put out the house fire. We're not the cops who go and arrest the bad guys. But our job is there to help coordinate all of those resources, both the formal emergency services, but also those other public entities like our public works and transportation partners, our utilities, the nonprofit organizations, the volunteer organizations, actives in disasters, all that good stuff. The analogy I always like to use when describing emergency management is a potluck. We are the host of the potluck. And when you have that big party, as a host, I can't cook, I can't set the table, I can't make entertainment, I can't do all those things without help. And it's the same thing in emergency management. We're the host. We utilize this room or the incident command post to facilitate those coordination, those planning meetings, those information sharing efforts. But really we're leveraging the resources, the expertise that all of our partners can be brought into the room to respond to anything. Disasters always start and end at the local level. So anything that occurs here in Williamson County, it's going to start here. The response is going to start with the Williamson County and the appropriate jurisdictional response, escalate to the state, regional, and potentially even the national level. But then it's always going to come back to that local level. Part of our job as the County Emergency Management Agency is we're there for the duration of the disaster. So we're there from the time the first phone call comes in all the way through the long-term recovery, even when that's years later, after everybody else has left, after the story has left the news, and all that kind of stuff. We're there for the duration. Most of you, if you're in this world, have probably seen some of the headlines about how things are changing at the federal level. There's a lot of changes occurring at the federal level when it comes to emergency management. And long-term, we have no idea what exactly is going to shake out. But I think the general theme that is coming out of the federal government is local and state agencies are going to be more and more, are going to have to be more and more self-reliant without federal government support. And for every agency, that looks a little bit different based upon what resources they have, what resources they don't, their staffing, all that good stuff. We're very fortunate. We have a lot of resources here in county, a lot of resources in our broader region that we can leverage when it exceeds our capability. But at some time, there is going to be that disaster that exceeds all of our regional resources, and we're going to have to ask for help, whether it's from other states or from the federal level as well. So if you go on our website, we have this great mission statement that's really long. It's kind of complex. So this is my simple explanation of what our agency's mission is. So we're responsible for the countywide effort, pre-disaster mitigation, preparedness, and prevention During a disaster, it's the response, and after a disaster, it's the recovery. Here in Williamson County, we obviously have the 6 municipalities, plus the unincorporated portion that we're responsible for. Brentwood, Franklin, and Spring Hill each have a small municipal emergency management program. They're all essentially one-person shops. So they have some resources at the municipal level, but generally they're calling us at the county for that broader effort. The other kind of piece, for those of you who are familiar with the area, Spring Hill is obviously cut in half in the Murray County side, half in the Williamson County side, but all of Spring Hill is dispatched out of ECOM upstairs. So we're very integrated into the response efforts on both sides of Spring Hill. So our vision, this one's a little bit more straightforward and a little bit easier to read, but essentially our vision as an agency is for everybody in our community, whether you're an individual, a family, a resident, business owner, visitor, government entity, private sector, to be knowledgeable and empowered to respond and recover from a disaster. The reality is we have the resources in the county to respond to that motor vehicle crash, that structure fire, the medical call, but we don't have the resources when there's 1,000 of those going on at the same time. At some point, our resources are going to be taxed, and the response is going to be delayed. It's kind of a harsh reality. Nobody really wants to hear that. But at some point, whether it's a tornado, large-scale power outage, pick your hazard, our resources are going to exceed, and it's going to take time for us to get to residents, community members in need. So part of our vision is ensuring that everybody in our community has the knowledge to be prepared on their own. What can you do before a disaster to be prepared, and how can you mitigate and kind of respond within your home, your small community. Whether that's basic first aid, learning how to shore up a window if you had a tree go through a glass window or something like that, being prepared so that you're not, you're able to respond and react appropriately without having to tax those emergency services resources until they're available. So our organization structure, for those of you who've been around a while, this has recently changed. So for those of you who don't know, Connor Scott is the new public safety director. He took over for Bill Jorgensen, who is also a WCARES member. And so Connor's been here for about a year. I think at the end of this month, he'll be here for a year. And he, after assessing the agency, he implemented a reorganization for the Office of Public Safety. So for those of you who are new, this looks a little bit differently than it did about a month ago. So Connor reports directly to the mayor as the public safety director. Underneath him is the chief of EMS for Williamson Health. The chief of EMS, he's kind of split responsibilities. He reports to Connor, but he also direct reports to the hospital. Underneath Connor, we have the ECOM director or the 911 director, and then all of their staff. The emergency management director, Todd Horton, and then our team. And where the big change is so finance and administration was always directly under the Office of Public Safety, but we've now moved our IT and communications team, which was previously under EMA, now reports directly to the public safety director. And then our fire service support team, which was also previously under EMA, now reports to the public safety director. We have a GIS specialist on our team, but he also reports, and we'll explain that in a second, to county IT, and then our communications and technology team also kind of indirectly, they don't formally report to them, but they indirectly report to the county IT director just for coordinating the operations that occur in this building and our infrastructure, but also across the county as a whole. So looking at our agency specifically, so this is just kind of a zoomed in portion for the emergency management section. The emergency management director is an appointed position. It is the only position in county government that, aside from the county mayor, that has a TCA code about what its responsibilities are and requires it to be appointed. The emergency management director, in the absence of the mayor, is also authorized to act as the mayor's authorized representative. So if the mayor is not present, the emergency management director can act as his authorized representative. So as a result, anytime we have an emergency or anytime we have a disaster, The emergency management director goes directly to the mayor. He doesn't report. We obviously keep Connor as the public safety director in the loop from a communications perspective, but the emergency management team, we go directly to the mayor. So underneath Todd, we have Jill Burgeon, who's our external affairs officer. If you see any of our social media, our community engagement, all that kind of stuff, that all comes through her. And then myself as the operations manager. And then underneath me, essentially, I'm responsible for kind of the day-to-day activities of the agency. Underneath me, we have our GIS specialist, who dual reports to the county GIS manager, who is under the IT director. And so county IT has 2 GIS specialists. We have 1. Collectively, they form a team of 3 to provide kind of that geospatial, situational awareness, all that good stuff. The advantage to that is we have 1 person dedicated to us for day-to-day needs, but when we have that large-scale incident and we need to leverage those GIS resources, instead of just calling 1 person, we've got 3 people at our fingertips that we can call. We have our readiness team, which is led by our readiness coordinator, and then 4 emergency management officers that fall underneath him. And they do all of our day-to-day activities, the planning, training, exercise, special event planning, logistics, all of that kind of stuff. And then we also have our reserve team, which is our volunteers that we can pull in both for preparedness activities, training, special events, response, all that good stuff. So why do we exist? What are our top hazards? Everybody likes to ask the question, what is the #1 hazard in Williamson County? And it's kind of a difficult question to state. We can obviously talk, what's the probability? Flooding and tornadoes, we have a very high probability. Those are going to happen. But we also have a lot of mitigation and prevention measures that are in place to mitigate the impact of those events. And it takes a pretty significant flooding event to actually have a significant life safety or property risk. Certainly if you've driven around the county in the last couple of weeks, you've seen we've had some flooding. We all know where those common areas are that are going to flood. Some of those are intended to flood so that they're not flooding out properties, homes, and all those types of things. But we know how to mitigate those. Certainly, obviously, if there's a catastrophic flood event, that's certainly likely and will have a significant impact. The other challenge is those events that are lower probability, a cyber attack, an active assailant, a protest, things like that. They have a lower probability, but their impact is very high. So those have, that's what complicates that answer to that question. Certainly the community is going to react different to different events. A lot of our community members are more expectant of severe weather. They know how to they generally know what the response should be, what preparedness activities they should be, but something like a multi-day power outage is going to significantly challenge our community, and not everybody in our community is prepared for that type of thing. I should have put an asterisk next to cyber attack. Cyber attack is definitely one of the most significantly growing threats we have. Every day, our system is, actors are trying to penetrate our system thousands of times a day, both here as well as across the county. So it's really a matter of when, if not if, a cyber attack is going to occur. I'm sure those of you who, depending upon your occupation, you're probably facing a very similar threat. A lot of our critical infrastructure is under significant cyber attack. Hospitals, water utilities, electric utilities, communications, all of those are under significant targeting. There was a report that came out just this week that talked about the National Weather Service, their Doppler radars are being attacked, both, or threats of attack are both physically as well as through cyber against their infrastructure. And obviously we rely on those weather radars to help inform our decision making when it comes to weather threats, so you can see the cascading impact that that could potentially have. So cyber attack, whether it's against our immediate infrastructure or one of our partner infrastructures, if Millcrofton Water Utility is hacked, if Middle Tennessee Electric, TDOT, any of those infrastructure pieces could have a significant impact on our county operations here. So that's a significant challenge that we are working through and continuing to robust our preparedness efforts on that front. So day to day, obviously, disasters don't occur every single day. So what do we do? What does our team do? Number one is relationship building. I make the argument that the most valuable resource I have at my disposal is my phone and the contacts that I have in my phone. Because those are relationships that I have, those are people that I can call upon and say, hey friend, can you help me address this problem? Can you bring these resources to the table? And that's really fundamentally, you strip everything away, the fancy titles, the fancy equipment. Relationships is the #1 method that we're going to respond to any type of event in this county. So relationship building is huge. Number 2, we have a lot of specialty programs that we manage and we maintain. So we have a grants program that funds a lot of our activities, but also helps us provide equipment and capabilities to a lot of our response partners. The biggest one is the Homeland Security Grant Program and the Urban Area Security Initiative. Both of those are DHS grants that provide us funding opportunities for Homeland Security District 5, which is basically the 7 counties around Davidson County. And collectively as a district, we are able to purchase a lot of specialized equipment, a lot of specialized assets that either increase or add capabilities, not just to our agency, but to all of our response partners' capabilities. Hazardous materials. In the state of Tennessee, emergency management is statutorily required to manage hazardous materials. Some states that falls under environmental protection, other states it's the fire department. Here in Tennessee, hazardous materials remediation falls under emergency management. So we work very closely on any type of hazmat incident, any type of hazmat response. Generally speaking, the responders, the fire department hazmat teams, they're going to be the technicians who are going to work the problem. But emergency management, we're ultimately responsible for the remediation of that event. Search and rescue, drone, all those types of things. Those are some of the highlights of our programs. When it comes to planning, planning is not just that physical document that comes together, that binder that goes on the shelf and collects dust or gets used as a doorstop. Planning is really a process, again, going back to that relationship building of engaging all of our partners, bringing them all to the table to work through how can we respond to something, what are our planning assumptions, what are our limitations, what are our capabilities. Our agency is responsible for writing and then publishing the County Emergency Operations Plan and the County Hazard Mitigation Plan and the County Continuity of Government Plan. Those are the 3 county-wide plans that we put together. Those 3 are all approved by the county mayor. And then we obviously write our own continuity of operations plan, but then we support all the other county departments with writing their plans. Those department heads are responsible for writing their COOP plans, but we work through them, help them through that process, kind of guide them, provide recommendations. We'll review their plans and help them develop it. And then we're also responsible for developing any hazard or event-specific plans that come up. So we develop a lot of the special event plans. We have some other event-specific plans. I'll use the 2024 election as an example. We built a plan for that. So all of those types of things we build in-house. Training and exercise. So whether we host it or we facilitate it, one of our goals is bringing all of our partners to the table for those training and exercises, because that's really where we have an opportunity to evaluate those plans, identify where we have capability gaps, where we have limitations, where do we need to put in those opportunities for improvement. So we leverage training that we can do locally, but we also participate in a lot of regional and state training opportunities. A group of us were just up at TEMA for the last couple of weeks doing some incident management training. We've got somebody else going out to Knoxville in a week or 2 for some additional training. We participated in an exercise with the Healthcare Coalition 2 weeks ago, so it's kind of a constant effort. Communications and technology, as I kind of alluded to in the organization chart, we're responsible for maintaining all the infrastructure here in this building, which obviously houses the 911 center, but we also maintain all the radio towers across the county that make up the public safety radio system. So maintaining all of that equipment, all of that infrastructure, all of our portables, those types of things. And then we also support the technology and communications needs of the volunteer fire departments across the unincorporated portion of Williamson County. So we have a couple of team members who are going, making sure that the radios and the fire apparatus, their MDTs, all of those good stuff are updated, working, receiving information. And then finally, the external affairs and public education side of things. So Jill, again, leads that effort, but then we all support her, whether we're doing a booth at a special event, we're providing social media, doing an interview, doing a panel discussion, those types of things, all of those to kind of target different groups, different activities. The other piece, and this is now directly under Connor, but it's important to kind of highlight the effort that our agency collectively as the Office of Public Safety that we do to support the volunteer fire departments. So for those of you who may or may not know, the unincorporated portion of Williamson County, as well as the town of Thompson Station, their fire protection is provided by 3 different volunteer departments. There are 100% volunteer, but they get support from the county. So under our fire service support team, we have a fire coordinator and then 7 fire captains, and collectively they work out of the stations alongside the volunteers to assist in recruitment and retention, so taking that applicant, working them through the application process, the background check, physical, all of that kind of stuff. We conduct all of the training, both the initial recruit training, but also all that continuing educational training for those volunteers. Fleet maintenance, both preventative and corrective maintenance. We also purchase a lot of the vehicles and equipment for the volunteer departments. And then we help build the emergency services station. Here in Williamson County, officially, they're not fire stations, they're emergency services stations because they have the capability to support fire, EMS, and law enforcement. So most of the newer stations have a work area for like a patrol officer. He can get off the street, do his reports, those types of things. EMS runs out of a lot of our stations, not all of them, but a lot of them. Certainly the new ones that come online, EMS will run out of. One of the buildings that we have in design will also house our new backup 911 center, so we'll have that capability. And then we also respond alongside those volunteers to help provide staffing, but also to provide technical expertise. A lot of our fire captains have hazardous materials, technical rescue, extrication, high ropes. They kind of have various specialty training that they can bring to the table. So during a disaster, what does our agency do? How do we respond? So first and foremost, we have an EMA on-call 24/7, 365 days a year. They're passively monitoring the weather, all of the incidents in the county. They're looking for or monitoring the threat bulletins that come from TBI and some of our other intelligence sources. Basically monitoring those, and then if there's any type of small-scale response, they'll respond out to that. Trey asked the question as we were chatting beforehand, what do we commonly respond to? It's everything from multi-vehicle accidents. A lot of times those multi-vehicle accidents involve a fuel spill. And again, going back to we're responsible for hazardous materials, fuel spill becomes a hazmat that we have to clean up. Missing person cases, so we'll help with mapping and tracking of resources during any type of search efforts. It may be a brush fire. It can be a suspicious package call that we're doing evacuations and we got a call on EOD, those types of things. So it can kind of vary. Really, our job on any of those scenes is to support the incident commander, provide resources, provide information to kind of augment their response. Anytime we have any type of larger scale event, we'll spin up this room as the Emergency Operations Center to coordinate that whole community response. And really, our job here is to provide information and or resources to the incident commander and those municipal emergency managers or municipal county leaders or city leaders during their response. So this room, depending upon the level of activation, can either be 1, 2, 3 people, all the way to the full complement of about 100, 120 folks, depending upon how busy this room gets. And really, from this room, we become the conduit of information from the county effort all the way to the state. Anytime we spin this up, we're talking to the state, advising them of what we're seeing, but we're also talking to our regional partners. So we're talking to Murray County, we're talking to Rutherford County, Hickman County, Marshall County, Cheatham, Dixon, Davidson, understanding what they're going through and being poised to help them. Perfect example, yesterday, or 2 days ago, excuse me, May 8th was the 1-year anniversary of the F3 tornado that went through Murray County. For those of you who are watching it, it almost came into Williamson County, almost came across College Grove. We had actually activated the outdoor warning sirens in anticipation of that storm continuing into Williamson County. Fortunately for us, it did not, but obviously it had a devastating effect for Murray County. And our team was here. We were monitoring that event. We were tracking that event. And as soon as the confirmation of the tornado was touched down in Murray County, we immediately started sending resources down to assist Murray County. I think in total, just under 100 different resources over the first 3 days went down to Murray County. A lot of those were from Spring Hill, the Sheriff's Office, EMS. Our EMA team went a couple days later to help with damage assessments and things like that to support them. So we're talking to those regional partners. We understand what their challenges are, poised to kind of respond. And likewise, if we have a need, we can immediately call upon them to ask for assistance. So as I kind of alluded to, the County Emergency Operations Center, the way we are structured is we have the ESF format, so the emergency support functions. For anybody here who paid attention in ICS 100, it's a little bit different than this traditional ICS function, but really the methodology there is to ensure specific working groups for all the critical functions of government. This room has 105 workstations, but we will add additional workspaces in the breakout rooms and the offices as need be to kind of support that response. This picture was actually from when we were tracking the tornado in Murray County last year. So, since this is WCARES, we will highlight ESF2, our communications. So for ESF2, emergency management is the lead agency for that ESF. And then you can see on the screen all of our assisting agencies that fall under communications. So ECOM, Brentwood Dispatch, from a dispatch perspective, WCARES is on that list, as well as our Emergency Communications District, our Joint Communication Network Authority, County IT is on there, but also the state radio system, TACN, is one of our partners, and then all of the cell and telecom providers also fall under ESF2. So there's a lot to that. Depending upon the disaster, it's going to kind of dictate what partners we're going to need in the space. Large-scale tornado goes through, and maybe all of those partners, multiple cell, radio towers are down, all of that kind of stuff. And we'll talk here in a minute about the WCARES role in a little bit more detail. But those are all of most of our ESF2 partners. One thing to note, previously, IT and cybersecurity was kind of an awkward blend between ESF2 communications and ESF3 infrastructure. And we have removed that, and we are putting that into a new ESF, ESF17, and making it IT, or information technology and cybersecurity. So we're kind of consolidating that effort under its own dedicated ESF to kind of coordinate those needs and those operations specifically. So some of our communications communications equipment that we have here as our agency. So we have the COLT, which is the Communications Operations and Logistics Trailer. This is kind of a one-stop shop or a rolling toolbox of kind of everything we need to really start any type of significant response. So we have cash radios, an inflatable tower. It's got cots, MREs. We carry the drone in there, a little bit of everything to kind of spin up any type of small response. This trailer frequently goes with our communications technician. Most of you may know Butch Coulter. He provides the communication support to Tennessee Task Force 2 when they deploy. So he'll take this trailer and his truck to kind of provide that support whenever they deploy. I think he went on 5 deployments this past year to various events in Texas, Florida, North Carolina, all that good stuff. We also have the MITs. We have MIT 1 and MIT 2, the mobile interoperability tower trailers. And these can provide basically a portable radio tower anywhere in the nation. So we have the state as well as the national interoperability channels loaded, both VHF, UHF, and 7800. MIT 2 is currently out at Renfest. For those of you who have been there or going there this weekend, you'll see it set up there to provide communication support for that. It went down to Mule Day last month to provide comm support. The picture in the bottom right is when Hickman County had the gas explosion just under 2 years ago, and they brought in resources from Williamson, Davidson, and Dixon County. We were all in different communication systems, so we took the tower trailer out for that. 2 new resources we have. One of them is here. One of them is currently under construction. So we have MC2, Mobile Communications and Coordination 2. So the MC is for the 2 C's. That's the picture on your left. That is a Sprinter van, and it's intended to support our incident dispatch team. So inside it, it has 3 dispatch positions. Each position has a CAD computer, an internet PC, and then 2 mobile radios. And then it has the passenger suite swivels around to be kind of a flex workspace. And then out of the back of the van, the back doors open up. There's a TV monitor, and it's kind of designed to be a workspace for the incident commander to kind of manage a small incident. This is intended to be a response vehicle that we can take out to medium-sized incidents, so like a search, a brush fire, a second alarm, structure fire, something along those lines, where the incident commander can benefit from having the dispatchers immediately on scene, help them manage resources, manage information a little bit better. So this resource was delivered 2 weeks ago, made its maiden voyage out at Buttercup in Nolensville last weekend, and we're kind of working through getting it finalized, getting it fully set up, and all that kind of stuff. The next picture, and I don't have a good picture, this is just one of the build pictures that kind of alludes to its capabilities, but when it's here, we'll give you a more appropriate picture and showing of this vehicle. But MC3 is our mobile command trailer that's currently under construction. It's a 53-foot tractor trailer with full-length slide-outs both on the curbside as well as the street side. 1/3 of the trailer is going to be a dispatch center, so it's going to have 8 full dispatch positions with CAD computers, internet PC, the mobile radio console, and then it has a 10-person conference table that will be able to do like call taking specific. The technology in the vehicle will allow us to manually roll both 911 and non-emergency lines from upstairs to that trailer. So in the event that this building is compromised in some fashion, this can serve as an alternate dispatch as well as a fully operational EOC in the event that this building is compromised. It will also be able to be deployable so that if a neighboring jurisdiction's their 911 center is compromised, we can do the same. We can manually roll their lines and they can operate out of the vehicle. On the EOC side, it has 14 perimeter positions. 2 of those are set up to be either dispatch overflow or dispatch in the EOC positions, so they have the CAD computer, the mobile radios, as well as the internet PC, and then a bank of monitors around the perimeter, and then it has a 14-person conference table, plotter. It has a amateur radio. It has a, I don't see Jeff Standifer here. He's at Renfest, but I'm pretty sure it has a VHF, UHF, and HF radio, and he can tell you what exact model is because he ordered the equipment for it. So I don't remember off the top of my head. So it has all of those equipment in there. Essentially, we can do everything, all of the critical functions that we can do in this building out of that vehicle once it's under construction. So we hope to have that. Well, we were supposed to have it 6 months ago, so hopefully we have it in the next 6 weeks or so. So it's getting close. This is the latest progress picture that they sent us of it. So Some of the other pieces of equipment that we have, drones. Drones are becoming a huge asset to us. Sheriff's Office is purchasing some additional drones. Most of our emergency services partners have drones. So whether it's a brush fire and we're looking for hot spots, a missing person that we're looking for the heat signature, damage assessments, swift water if we need to identify a subject down a waterway. All of those are different use cases for drones. So they're becoming, A, much more affordable, and 2, a much more practical resource in a lot of our operations. The Sheriff's Office still has their helicopter. That's not going away, but this is definitely giving us drones are giving us the opportunity to provide that aerial footage faster and on a much more consistent basis for a lot of smaller incidents that you may not necessarily call out the helicopter. All of our EMA on-call, they have response vehicles that are set up to support the incident commander on scene. So we've got whiteboards, we've got a whole bunch of equipment that we carry with us. We have a gateway in all of our vehicles, so we have network connectivity, so we can start pulling in some of our different software solutions. We have mobile radios, all that good stuff. All of our vehicles have VHF, UHF, and 7/800 radios. So whether we're in county or out of county, we can kind of have that radio communications. And then UTVs, those get used all the time. If you go to any of the special events, you'll see our team riding around in those. And we have a whole bunch of other small toys, but those are the big ones. One of the things that I kind of wanted to highlight, and Hoop and I were talking about this before this meeting, was when we talk about communications, when we talk about operations, is the PACE acronym. This originally came out of the communications world. Where it exactly originated, I haven't tracked that down. I'm sure somebody here probably knows the story. But I know it came out of the communications world, but here in emergency management, and specifically in Williamson County, we really apply that to everything. So whether it's facilities, equipment, personnel, always following the PACE concept in terms of having a primary methodology, so a primary solution. What are we going to utilize every day? What is our preferred method? The alternate, it's almost equivalent to the primary, but it's not as preferred. Having a contingency way of doing it, what's our fallback or alternate solutions that still allows us to do what we need to do, and then our emergency, our last resort. Usually it's the least desirable, but when all else fails, what is our emergency plan to do something? So if we talk about this building, we can talk about power, we can talk about water, we can talk about communications. All of those have a primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency. We do the same with our training and our staffing. We have a primary representative, we have an alternate and contingency and emergency so that we can have that continuity. So certainly we can go through a lot of different workflows, but I would encourage you, both collectively as a group, but also as an individual, think about your own home PACE. Do you have a primary method of transportation? Do you have an alternate? Do you have a contingency? Do you have an emergency? You know, if you had to strap on your hiking boots and go walk, can you do that? Or, you know, can you have a friend who's got a UTV or an ATV that you can borrow, you know, to get to the store or something like that? So having worked through that both as a personal preparedness, but also collectively as a group is a good practice. So how can you help specifically as the WCARES group? And I don't have everything on this screen. I just highlighted a few things. So number one, community education. I know you guys were at, and I'm going to butcher the exact name, but the NWS Severe Weather Awareness Day, thank you. Things like that where you're educating the community on communications. Everybody across the community, everybody relies on this little box in their pocket, and everybody, or the majority of the general public assumes that that little box, they turn it on, is always going to work. The reality is it doesn't always work. So whether it's a brush fire that takes out the fiber lines or the power lines that go into a cell phone tower, or tornado, cyber attack, take your pick of a hazard, we definitely are susceptible to losing network connectivity. So having that alternate communication, you all, in your all's efforts, educating the community on what are those other systems, how can we leverage the amateur radio system to provide that alternate form of communications is huge. In a disaster, one of our biggest challenges is not just informing the community of a disaster, but it's also receiving information from the community. It's great if we can push out, hey, here's where shelters are, here's where points of distribution are, all that kind of stuff. But if we don't know about the neighbor who's having a heart attack or the neighbor that's trapped in their building, those types of things, we're not going to be able to respond appropriately to those calls for service. So it's very important for the community. It's relatively easy. I use the example of severe weather. Sign up for emergency alerts, have that weather radio in your house, or have those alternate systems. Those are all great, but those are one-way systems, right? The weather radio tells you that severe weather is coming, your house is going to be impacted, but I, as an emergency manager, have no way of knowing if your house has been impacted. So if you don't have a cell phone, how are you able to communicate that to us? The outdoor warning sirens monthly test. I know Hoop and Jeff previously had sent out a lot of communications, and you all do a great job of going out to the outdoor warning sirens and helping us validate whenever we do those monthly tests. And that's huge. And it doesn't always get translated how much of a help that is. Our software system, it will tell us that a siren worked or didn't work. Well, all that really tells us is that the computer thinks that the siren actually activated. It doesn't guarantee that the siren did activate, or if it did, it didn't rotate, or whatever the problem was that occurred. Certainly our sirens are not a one-stop shop. They're not the only solution that we rely upon during any type of severe weather event, but they are a key component of our alert and warning system. It's also a key factor that our community relies upon. Certainly we push the emphasis that they are A, outdoor warning sirens, and 2, they're located in high-density population areas. They're not intended to reach that house that's out in the backcountry type of thing. So having that feedback from you all is huge. Certainly it's not a perfect solution, but we do greatly appreciate those efforts. Training and exercises. I know you all do a lot of training, both during your monthly meetings as well as on your own free time. And then you do exercises like the field day. I know we had a great exercise, 6 months or so ago at field day where we did the sheltering and all that operations. Yes, was that 6 months or so ago? Somewhere in that neighborhood. You all do field day, a great exercise, all those types of things. So doing those exercises, and I appreciate Hoop and Jeff and everybody else who provides the feedback. That helps us understand your all's capabilities and resources and how we can best plug them in during a response. So with that, response resources. The biggest one, or the most frequently used one, is severe weather monitoring. I know a lot of you, and I know Laura does it a lot, post in NWS chat. When you're getting feedback, you're collecting those damage reports, collecting those weather reports, usually through the MTIERS net. When it goes in NWS chat, we're watching it live, we're getting that input, and we're tracking those reports. So we utilize those to kind of validate, hey, this is what fire is saying, this is what law is saying, this is what our community is saying on social media. It helps us validate those. So we greatly appreciate those reports. So anytime we have severe weathers and you all spin up the net, know that we are actually watching the feedback that comes into those different feeds. We are interpreting that. We are digesting all that information. Great example. It was the storm system that came through 3-4 weeks ago. It's all blurring together at this point. That week that we had a whole bunch of severe weather, we got the report of a fire at the substation there at Pinewood and 100. The fire department got the call, or 911 got the call. They toned it out, and I think within about 1 or 2 minutes, somebody had reported through MTIERS, and it was in NWS chat, hey, there's a reported structure fire at the substation there at Pinewood and 100. So we had 2 points of validation. We had whoever it was that called it in from your all's group, but then we also had a couple of citizens who called it in, and fire was on the way. So we do absolutely receive those information. 2, and this one is kind of situational dependent, beyond just the weather monitoring, field observers. So when we talk about that major incident, whether it's a tornado, whether it's a cyber attack, a long-term power outage, whatever the scenario is that we've lost communications, there's definitely an opportunity for us to plug in field observers through your all's group. We coordinate that through HOOP and the rest of your group to plug out, put radio operators out into the field to provide feedback to the Emergency Operations Center to dispatch. That would be a coordinated effort. Here are the locations. Here's the information that we need to collect. Gather that information and feed it back to us. Typically when we do that, that's coordinated with staffing the AUXCOM room here in the EOC. We kind of have a group of you who will call and say, hey, we want to spin this up, so that we get that feedback directly in this room, have that information feed. And then the last one is the communications, community communications liaison. And this isn't the official term, but this is the easiest way to explain it. So one of our parts of our contingency planning is if we lost communication, we had a significant loss in telecommunications, and the public isn't able to receive or send communications in, tell us, hey, so-and-so had a heart attack. Hey, so-and-so has a tree into their house. Hey, so-and-so, whatever the problem is. How do we get that information? So part of our contingency planning would be to put a radio operator at key locations, so community centers, HOA, community buildings and neighborhoods, other key points that are in relatively close proximity to the community that they can go to. So if it's that community building there in the neighborhood, they can go to, there's a radio operator who can then share that information back to the EOC. So we have a network or a communications list rather of all the HOAs across Williamson County. So all those neighborhoods, all those community centers, we have contacts so we can leverage, hey, we need to plug a radio operator in because we've lost those telecoms, we've lost that resource. We need to be able to get information to the community, but we also need to collect information from the community. So certainly that's kind of a very much a gray to black sky scenario, but it is something that we do plan for and is an opportunity where we can leverage your all's resources. Certainly I know in SET we talked about and we discussed how, again, if we had taxed a lot of our public safety resources or if the public safety radio system was down, as well as the TACN network, how we can plug radio operators in at shelters, points of distribution, those other critical response operations to, again, provide that communication link between this operation and those field operations. So, a lot of information, try to cover a lot of ground. I know I can ramble, I can, as Hoop mentioned, I can think and talk about this all day. What questions do you all have for me?
You mentioned an abbreviation, THS, a couple of times, Tennessee something. THS, did you say it? THS grants?
DHS, Department of Homeland Security.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Any other questions? If that was the only question, that was an easy question.
Can you comment on agency certification recently?
Sure. So our agency was recently accredited through the Emergency Management Accreditation Program, or EMAP, which is basically a national standard to recognize emergency management programs, both public sector as well as private sector across the country. And so we were accredited back in the fall. So, yes, sir.
Your relationship with the HOAs, is that a formal relationship you developed with all of the HOAs? Is that ongoing, or is it something that is kind of considered static at this point and you've already done the work?
So it's ongoing. So basically, we don't have any type of like formal agreement. Hey, we're going to come in. We're guaranteed to put X, Y, and Z resources into the community. But basically, what we have is we have a communications roster, if you will, of the board chairs or board contacts for the HOAs, and we have that communications network essentially. So if there's either needs from those groups or if we need to offer resources or something like that, we can leverage that to get that information out to those communities.
The reason I brought that up is a lot of us live in HOAs.
Yes.
And we have the ability to reach out for an local association. The idea of using their clubhouses, for example, temporary shelters is good. But it's also good to inform them that you want to know, for example, if a tornado destroys one of those shelters or causes damage in that area. If there's amateurs living in there, you formalize. If in an HOA, you have a more formal arrangement, there's already amateurs in that area, you can get real-time information on what has happened in there. I'm from upstate New York, and we used to have cross-train our amateur radio operators with the Red Cross under damage assessment.
Sure.
And you have a field observer program. Have you thought about trying to qualify people with cross-training so that you know when there's a reliable report of damage and things like that? Because I know it's possible, having done that.
Yeah, so kind of twofold points there. So first one with the HOAs. So number one, generally speaking, we are not going to use field houses as shelters just because they don't have the infrastructure to support it. Most field houses, we have to bring in a lot of resources, shower trailer, all that kind of stuff to stand up a shelter. We have shelters pre-planned at, we have 40-something pre-planned shelters. Most of them are schools or the parks and rec facilities across the county, and those would be where we would stand up a formal shelter. The clubhouses would be utilized more as a community gathering point of where we can provide information and we can send information to that community. So if we had a tornado that went through 2 or 3, 4 or 5, a dozen neighborhoods, we can specify or we can pass information. Hey, this is the location of that you can go to receive information, whether it's ongoing by having a radio operator there, or if we're going to schedule, hey, at this date and time, we're going to have representatives from emergency management, representatives from emergency services on site to answer those questions. That would be kind of the idea of utilizing those resources. When it comes to cross-training, absolutely there's an opportunity to talk about cross-training. Formal damage assessments, we do have a pretty robust team that do the formal damage assessments to do those types of things, but from a field observer, getting reliable, the Storm Spotter program is really right now the best formal training to get accurate, that provides education on the best way to communicate accurate storm-related events and that stuff and send it into our team. Jeff, do you have a question?
I was going to just maybe point out or ask you to point out what's on the tables. It pretty much lays out the whole arrangement of this room, where those different ESF stations are, and also the layout of the lead table. It's on the table. You can take a look at it.
So Jeff just mentioned there's the laminated paper should be at the head of every table. That's got the layout of this room. On the back is the communications channel, every phone in the room, how to dial it. Don't call it if you need help because it's not actively monitored. So don't call those phone numbers, but it does give you the layout of how we would spin up this room. So any other questions? Yes, sir.
As far as the communication, when you send out, let's say you ask us to volunteer and go out to a specific site, are you looking for certain types of communication levels like VHF, UHF, HF? I mean, we practice a lot of different scenarios and everybody has different capabilities, but are there certain things you're looking for when the comms are out and you need us to go back point to point? Because a lot of times HTs won't clear the hills. So, what methodology are you looking for from us?
So I'm going to give you an answer that you're probably not going to like. It depends. It's very scenario dependent. And really, if we're leveraging those, we would coordinate, we would get Hoop as well as whoever is working ESF2 to talk through what that comms plan looks like. And we would develop a formal 205 for that. Hey, based upon the scenario, based upon the location and the terrain, here's the communication pathways that we're going to leverage, whether it's VHF, UHF, HF, and how the best to structure that. If we're talking about across Williamson County and we need, from corner to corner, it's probably going to look a little bit different than if we're looking at a tornado that just went through Flat Creek and College Grove and then went off into Rutherford County. So we would work with Hoop and whoever is ESF2 to build out that 205 and then understand what resources do you all have available today what resources are available perhaps tomorrow, and how can we best support that effort. So.
Okay, any other questions? Paul?
Josh, we do this.
Yeah, microphone helps.
We do the siren test every month, and like the last 2 months it's been canceled. But if you look at the sign-up sheet, it looks as though those sirens actually got tested and they get moved to the bottom of the list. Is there any way of having that rearranged, saying, no, those dates don't count?
I'm not sure I understand what you're asking.
I think I've got it. The system that we use as hams to sign up to visit a specific outdoor warning siren, when we sign up for that date gets stuck in the database, and even if, in this case, the siren test is canceled and we don't show up, that date that I signed up for still reflects that somebody visited. Yeah.
I see what you're saying. That's probably because I didn't clear the data. I forgot to clear the data. So that would be me. And that would be the glitch there. And really, for everybody's awareness, we canceled the siren test when there's a possibility of severe weather because we don't want the test to confuse the public with an actual event. So if there's any potential for severe weather, we cancel the test. That way it's clear. If the siren goes off on that Saturday, it's legit, take shelter. But I will remember to clear those data points out of the system. Yes, sir.
Just further to that, it's one thing when the test gets canceled, but there was a siren I visited 5 months continuous last year. It was always shown as recently tested, and it never failed. It always failed. So that's not just one problem with canceling the test. It's a problem with just signing up says it passed the test.
So, and for the context and the conversation that happens behind the scenes is the system is saying, I know there's 1 or 2 sirens that we get that feedback from whoever was the field observer, but the system is saying the sirens are testing accurately. So when we get those continuous reports, we're continuing to report those to the vendor who manages it for them to kind of work through this scenario. So I think there's 2 sirens countywide that are showing on the system that they're testing successfully, but then the field observers are reporting that there's no feedback. So that's where that communication loop, and that's why it's still valuable to get those feedback. If it says it's under maintenance or something like that, that's when we know, hey, we're waiting on parts, we're waiting on scheduling or whatever. So like if you go down to College Grove, those sirens are out until we get the appropriate parts and all that kind of stuff to get repaired. So.
Any other questions? Josh, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate your commitment.
Thank you.